Hi everyone, welcome to National Ethics and Values episode 6. I am Obijuku. I have here with me Mr. Tochukwu Nwazaka, a seasoned legal practitioner and the managing partner of Partner Partners, a law firm in Abuja. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you, and thank you for that robust introduction.
You're welcome. In our previous episodes, we've been looking at the values of our nation as derived from the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We say that these values are the Nigeria which every citizen is expected to live by. In our episode today, we'll be discussing the value of respect of human dignity, which is derived from Chapter 2, Section 17 of the Constitution. I'd like to define respect of human dignity as having due regard and consideration for the sacred value placed on every human being by God and having due regard for their inherent rights. What are these inherent rights?
The inherent rights are the rights of any human being, being a human being. Respect the value that is attached to him or her because his spirit, soul, is a body. Now, these rights are rights to life. The individual has a right to live. The individual has a right to have a family, right to family, home. He has a right to earn a living. The individual has a right to own property. The individual has a right to liberty, that you do not curtail his liberty for no reason except by specific dictates of the law. An individual has a right to religion, to worship of any god that he chooses. Now, in this, we may take it from the broad spectrum that these are natural rights. Then we get down to the societies. Now, these laws, you see, outside these natural rights that we enumerated, about 6 of them, we also have the others that are contained in that provision of Chapter 4, like rights to freedom of assembly. You can gather with whoever, peaceful gathering. You have the right to freedom from discrimination. Should not be discriminated against. There's right of movement. There's the right of the press. There is the right of the dignity of the human person. That an individual must not be tortured or made to pass through degrading or inhuman treatment. These are provisions of that Chapter 4. Now, Section 46 of that provision now gives it a bite that an individual, if he cannot enforce the law in Chapter 2, Chapter 4 now allows the individual to enforce this right by the instrumentality of the law, of the judiciary.
Okay, so this time we have both a moral obligation and a legal obligation.
That's very correct. That's very correct. Moral and legal obligation to have these rights protected and enforced.
Okay. So how can the government demonstrate the respect of human dignity as a value?
Now, the government in doing this is living up to her responsibility. The government must adhere to the letters and to the spirit of the provisions of the law. In doing this, the government must set up policies and structures to help the citizen, to preserve and protect and promote the dignity of the citizens. Now, take for instance, the government has a responsibility to provide health care, Medicare for the citizens. We have maybe challenges in issue of infant mortality and maternal mortality. These are challenges. We have problems of road infrastructure. Some of our roads are death traps. You have the issue of overcrowded prison system. You have the cells are overcrowded, the prisons are overcrowded. The courts cannot meet up with the demands of this. These are things that the government must do to protect these rights, like the right to life. An individual going to hospital to die, it's not proper. We'll talk about security. Now, people should sleep with two eyes closed. That is part of right to life. So we talk of liberty because we talked about the issue of having persons behind bars for so long. Some of them spend longer than the punishment will even allow. The government should look at these areas by taking care of them. The government is also protecting and promoting these rights as defined by the law. That is how the government can come in respecting the dignity of the human person.
Okay, because of our time, we go to how can individual citizens demonstrate respect for human dignity.
Still the same thing again. The first individual must recognize that the next man has a right that is protected by law. We'll look at employers and employee, where employees and employers, or where employees are paid slave wages. The government has provided a minimum wage. The question is this provision being met, whereby individuals are paid far less than what the government? People are complaining that the minimum wage is not doing anything, but some people are being paid far less than the minimum wage. That is what I call slave wage. Now we look at our culture also. There are some inimical cultural practices. The outcast system, widowhood issues, these are problems. And we find out that when individuals take care of this, they are now looking at the provisions of the Constitution again, the issues of discrimination, issues of earning a living. These are issues
of expression.
Very, very well. Very, very well. So when individuals understand this, that you owe a respect and dignity to the individual, the person is the other way, respecting the provisions of the Constitution. So
what are the implications of this value to our national realities and outcome? What the implication of respect of human dignity?
I want to say it is quite impactful. If we take a careful look at our society, we have the challenge of low productivity now, serious challenge of low productivity, low standard of living. And these are all because of the security challenges, lack of provision of proper, adequate, or even any infrastructure at all to protect these people. We look at the issue of migration, the issue of brain drain. Everybody wants to have a better life. The issue of unemployment is there. We have about 33% of unemployment. These are terrible. These are terrible figures, terrible situations. Then we have the issue of these kidnappings, banditry, burglary everywhere. And it's like, it's almost overwhelming the government. The government is already overwhelmed. These are problems of lack of recognition and respect to the dignity of human beings. So it spirals out of control. Those are challenges to my own understanding, to my own mind.
Okay, well, the implications are enormous. And,
very, very
and they require speedy and timely action, both by the government and individuals. Because in developed countries, they've passed talking about the importance of human rights.
That's right.
They even passed talking about the importance of animal rights. They're now talking about climate, environmental, the rights of the environment. But we are still here grappling with human rights. So what is the way forward?
There are a few things that I believe that we must pay attention to. For me, we'll start from the basics. There should be a change of the educational curriculum to include the teaching and studies of the rights of the human being. That nature deemed it fit to have these rights given to a human being. I think that the populace should begin to study it, find out. Now, the old philosophers brought out various teachings and thoughts on that, even to the point where we have the Declaration of the World Declaration on people and human rights, that we should begin to teach our citizens, even the children, from primary school to the highest level of learning, and then begin to teach the persons that are already involved in it. Then we should do what we call unlearning of what we already know, what we were doing before, what we're doing wrong. There should be an unlearning and then a relearning. There should be some intervention by education, educating the people, making people aware that these are things that will preserve the society.
Yes.
These are things that will protect lives, protect property, protect earnings. If this educational reorientation is done, it's going to help a lot. There's again another issue of selection of leadership. Behind or at the base of most of these challenges is leadership. Where you have a leader who has the mind of understanding that the human being should be given respect, should be honored, I think that all his or her policies will be geared towards the protection of the dignity of the man. Our people are not interested in voting. They're not interested in selection of the leadership. The number of persons, like I said in the last program, what's the percentage of the person that selects the president of a land? Very negligible percentage. So we should be interested in who becomes the president of a land. We should be interested in who becomes our members of the house that make our laws. Who are the persons? Even the issue of selecting judges. We find out that the quality of judges that we have now is not what we had in the past. There's patronage in it. Very, very unfortunate. But then there are still judges that keep the sanctity of this area of our national life. So there must be a drastic measure, thrown at selection of persons in leadership, persons that do what or don't do what. People should get involved in it. Again, there should be the issue of consequences for action. There are no consequences for action anymore. You hear of the police will say to some people on the street, look, I will shoot you, I'll shoot somebody now and nothing will happen. And sometimes they will do that and nothing happens. How can the society thrive? Again, look at the Attorney General on several occasions complained about the huge costs of the judgment debts upon the state. My own question is, who are those persons involved or that were responsible for those judgments being gotten against the state? Who are those persons responsible for that? They should be made to pay. They have salaries, they have pensions, they have gratuities. When you begin to make them pay, they will begin to think. When people do things carelessly, in the past, you remember we had in Nigeria, it was a lot of times the airplane will go to countries and it is impounded because there's some judgment against the nation. Somebody is responsible for that, and the person walks away scot-free. Now, the issue of these bandits and armed men that are caught, some of them that are caught, some that have laid down their arms, the government is saying you give amnesty. There's nothing wrong with amnesty. But what happens to fairness and justice? What happens to the victims of those persons? You say just give them amnesty. So it reinforces what they will say. I will shoot you now and nothing will happen. When we begin to make sure that there are consequences for actions, I think all of these things will stop. And that is respect for the human dignity, that there are consequences for infringing on that dignity. It will stop. Things will begin to work right.
Consequence management is very key in enforcing value.
I agree with you.
In the country.
I agree with you.
Because of that time, we have so many things to say. And from what all you have said, we see that the government has a lot of role to play. They didn't have a significant role to play.
Very huge role to play.
Without their own input, the citizens might not be able to really carry out or push the rights.
That's correct, because the government that will set the pace. It's the government that will move the nation to a particular direction. That's why we talked about leadership. We have a leadership that has a vision, has a focus, not a leadership that doesn't even know why or how they got there.
Doesn't even care about the rights.
They don't care about it. They don't even know about it, not to care about it. They don't even know about it.
But what are your final thoughts?
If we have respect or pay due adherence to the dignity of the human person, we are paying adherence to the survival, sustainable growth and development of the nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin, for
Thank you so
making our
much.
time on this episode to join us again. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Respect of human dignity is the heart, soul, and spirit of our existence. When a people are continually denied of their rights, they gradually lose their value, and that is what is playing out in our nation today. We would like to call upon the government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature to wake up to their responsibility and ensure that the values and the rights of the citizens are protected, upheld, promoted, and enforced. We, the citizens, should always value and respect the rights of our fellow citizens. Remember, respect is not earned, it is owed. I owe you respect, you owe me respect. Thank you for watching. See you next time. God bless Nigeria.
God bless you.